The topic is using different strategies to solve equations. The essential question is, what are some different strategies that you can use to solve equations? The directions say, show 3 ways to solve each equation. And this first equation is 2 times the quantity of 3 times x plus 4 equals 44. So you'll see right here that I wrote it down 3 times because the directions wanted us to show 3 different ways to solve that equation, okay? So I'm going to show you 3 ways, and as I'm showing them to you, I want you to determine which way works best for you, okay? Alright, so we'll start with, the first way that I'm going to show you is just the way that I've shown you before, is where you use that strategy where you build the equation, okay? So we're going to start off with that variable. And then after they had the variable, they multiplied it by 3. And then after that, they added 4. And then after that, they multiplied that whole quantity by 2. Okay? So now our first step in unbuilding the equation is using inverse operations, and what's the inverse operation of multiply by 2? That would be divide by 2. So up here, you're going to divide both sides by 2. Okay? I notice right here that you have 2 divided by 2. So go ahead and do that, 2 divided by 2, which is 1. And then 1 times this entire quantity is that quantity, because anything multiplied by 1 is itself. So I don't even have to distribute the 1 through there, but if you want me to, here I go. 1 times 3x is 3x. 1 times a positive 4 is a positive 4. And that's going to equal 44 divided by 2, which is 22. Okay, now that I've rewritten it, I'm going to go on back up. And the inverse operation of adding 4 is to subtract 4. And remember to do that to both sides of that equation. 4 take away 4 is 0. 22 take away 4 is 18. And bring everything down. Now that you've done that, now you go on back up. Inverse operation of multiply by 3 is to divide by 3. And you do that to both sides of that equation. Okay, I see right here you have 3 divided by 3, and that's 1. 1 multiplied by x is just 1x. Or there's 1x right there. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay? Now the second way that you can do this, that I'm going to show you, is to use the distributive property. So what you can do first is, that distributive property, is you would go 2 times 3x, which is 6x, and then 2 times a positive 4 is a positive 8, and then bring down your 44. Okay? Now that you've used the distributive property, now you can build that. So they started with x, then they multiplied it by 6, and then they added 8. Okay? So now unbuild it. The inverse operation of plus 8 is to subtract 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides of that equal sign. 8 subtract 8 is 0. 44 subtract 8 is 36. Bring down your equal sign and bring down that positive 6x. Now that you've simplified it right there, go on back up. The inverse operation of multiply by 6 is to divide by 6. So that's what I'm going to do to both sides of that equal sign. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times x is 1x. And that's going to equal, 36 divided by 6 is 6. Okay, you'll see we have the exact same answer right there, and 2 different ways to do it. There's also a third way to do it. And this involves adding 2 groups of 3 times x plus 4. Add 2 groups of 3x plus 4. Okay, because see, it's 2 groups of this. So let's go ahead and do that. 3x plus 4 plus 3x plus 4. Here's your group right there. And then there's a group right there. So there's 2 groups right there. And then go ahead and add them. So I see that I have like terms right here and right there. 3x plus 3x is 6x. And then I see that I have this positive 4 and this positive 4. And that equals positive 8. Oh, and I totally forgot to bring down that equals 44. Sorry. And that would equal 44. Now that it's been simplified, after you've added two groups of 3 times x plus 4, now you need to build it. That right there, they start with x, then they multiplied it by 6, and then they added 8. The inverse operation of adding 8 is to subtract 8. So do that to both sides of that equal sign. 8 take away 8 is 0. 44 subtract 8 is 36. Bring down your equal sign and your 6x and go back up. This inverse operation times 6 is to divide by 6. So you're going to divide this side by 6 and this side by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times x is 1x or x. And that's going to equal 36 divided by 6, which is 6. So you'll see there's 3 different ways right here, and you'll get the exact same answer. The first way, we just went straight to building it, okay? The second way, we used distributive property and then built it. The third way, we did what it said up here, adding two groups of 3x plus 4, simplified it, and then we built it, okay? So there's always some sort of building involved, but there's definitely 3 different ways that you could do it. And I'm sure there's probably more ways, but we're going to stick to 3 for now. All right, the next problem is 3 times the quantity of x plus 2 equals 39. So that first way, I'm going to just go right into building it. So I see that we have x right there, and then all they did was added 2. And then after that, they multiplied that quantity by 3. So the inverse operation of multiply by 3 is to divide by 3, and you're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. Okay, you have 3 divided by 3, which is 1. 1 times x is 1x, or x. 1 times a positive 2 is a positive 2. And that is equal to 39 divided by 3, which is 13. Next, you're going to go back up. Inverse operation of plus 2 is to subtract 2. Do that to both sides of that equal sign. 2 take away 2 is 0. 13 take away 2 is 11. And bring down that x. Oh, so x equals 11. Okay, the next way, let's use just straight into the distributive property. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times a positive 2 is a positive 6. And that's going to equal 39. Okay, now that we have used the distributive property, go ahead and build it. They start with x. And then we multiplied it by 3. Then added 6. The inverse operation of adding 6 is to subtract 6. And do that to both sides of that equal sign. 6 take away 6 is 0. 39 take away 6 is 33. Bring down your equal sign, bring down your 3 times x, and go on back up. Inverse operation of times 3 is to divide by 3. Divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times x is 1x, or x, same thing. 33 divided by 3 is 11. Okay, this next one, you're going to add 3 groups of x plus 2. Okay, so there's a group right there. And there's a group right there. And there's a group right there. And that's going to equal 39. Don't forget to put that part down because I forgot earlier in the previous problem. Okay, now let's go ahead and simplify it. I see that we have an x right there, plus an x right there, plus an x right there. X plus x plus x is 3x. And then I'm going to go ahead and add those positive 2's. Positive 2 plus 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is a positive 6. And that's going to equal 39. Okay, now that it's all simplified now, go ahead and build it. Start with x, then we multiplied it by 3, then we added 6. Okay, so the inverse operation of adding 6 is to subtract 6. You're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. 6 take away 6 is 0. 39 take away 6 is 33. Then bring down your 3x and, of course, your equal sign. Go ahead and move on back up this little thing here. And the inverse operation of times 3 is to divide by 3. So you're going to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times x is 1x, or x, same thing. And 33 divided by 3 is 11. Okay, again, 3 different strategies to get the exact same answer, and they all work. Okay? Alright, so your job is to answer this question. Which of the 3 ways shown was easiest for you? The first way where we went straight into building it, the second way where we used the distributive property first, or the third way where we had to add the groups together and then simplify it. Alright, go ahead and turn your page over. So these next ways, it says right here that you can solve this using any method. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to stick to 2 different ways to show you. I'm going to show you how to build it and use a distributive property because that third way that I showed you takes the longest and I don't really have time for that, okay? But you can go ahead and use that if you like. So for number 1, I'm going to go ahead and show you using the distributive property way, this paper, okay? So I have it labeled right here. And then right after I'm done showing you the distributive property way, I'm going to show you using the building equation way to solve, okay? So you can use whichever way you prefer, and I recommend pausing that video if need be and try some on your own. So using the distributive property. So negative 3 times 3x is a negative 9x. The negative 3 times a positive 4 is a negative 12. And that's going to equal 51. Okay, now that we've simplified it using the distributive property, I'm going to go ahead and build it. Start with x, and then we multiplied it by negative 9. And then after that, we subtracted 12. So the next thing that's going to go on is I'm going to go ahead and use inverse operations, and I'm going to, the opposite of negative 12 or minus 12 is plus 12. And that's what we're going to do to both sides of that equal sign. So add 12 over here and add 12 over here. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0. 51 plus 12 is 63. Bring down your equal sign. Bring down that negative 9x. Okay? Alright, now let's go on back up. The inverse operation of times by negative 9 is to divide by negative 9. And now go ahead and do that to both sides of that equal sign. Negative 9 divided by negative 9 is 1. 1 times x is x. And I'm going to just write it over here so I have room. And then 63 divided by negative 9. Well, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So 63 divided by negative 9 is negative 7. Okay? Now I'm going to show you how to do that exact same problem using that building way instead of using distributive property first. Alright, so right into building. We start with x. Then they multiplied it by 3. And then they added 4. So the inverse operation of adding 4 is, oh no, just kidding. We're not done yet. Okay, then they added 4, and then they multiplied it by negative 3. I'm sorry. There we go. Now I can go ahead and use inverse operations. So the inverse operation of timesing it by negative 3 is to divide by negative 3. And what you're going to do is you're going to divide both sides by negative 3. Okay, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. 1 times 3x is 3x. 1 times a positive 4 is a positive 4. And that's going to equal 51 divided by negative 3. It's going to have a negative answer, and it's negative 17. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and do the inverse operation of adding 4, which is to subtract 4. And make sure you do that to both sides of that equal sign. 4 take away 4 is 0. Negative 17 subtract 4 is negative 21. Bring down your equal sign and your 3x. Now you're going to go on back up. Inverse operation of timesing by 3 is to divide by 3. And you're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times x is x. And negative 21 divided by a positive 3 is going to give you a negative 7. Okay? So let's go ahead with number 2, and let's go ahead and do that building way. Or if you want, you can use the distributive property. But when we built this equation, they started with W, and then they multiplied it by -3, and then they added 10, and then they then they multiplied it by 5. Inverse operation of multiplying by 5 is to divide by 5. So you're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. 5 divided by 5 is 1. That's a slanty looking one. 1 times -3w is -3w. 1 times a positive 10 is a positive 10. And that's going to equal 170 divided by 5, which is 34. Okay, now you're going to go on back up. Inverse operation of plus 10 is to subtract 10, and you're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. 10 take away 10 is 0. 34 take away 10 is 24. Rewrite everything, bring down that -3w, okay? Okay, now that we've simplified it, we can go back up. Inverse operation of times -3 is to divide by -3. That to both sides. -3 divided by -3 is 1. 1 times w is w. Positive 24 divided by -3 is going to be a -8. Okay, doing that exact same problem using, using the distributive property would look like this. 5 times -3w is -15w. And then you would go 5 times that positive 10, which is a positive 50. And that equals 170. Sorry. And then from there, you're going to build it. So we started with w. Then we multiplied it by -15. And then after that, we added 50. Okay, so now inverse operations. Inverse operation of plus 50 is to subtract 50, and you're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. 50 take away 50 is 0. 170 take away 50 is 120. And bring everything down. Okay, then from there, you're going to go up after you've simplified it down there. Inverse operation of multiply by -15 is to divide by -15. Do that to both sides of that equal sign. -15 divided by -15 is 1. 1 times w is 1w, or just w. 120 divided by a -15 is going to give you a -8. Okay, let's go ahead and do this next problem using the distributive property. Half times 4, and if you're like, I don't know that, you can maybe use some room to the side over here and go 1/2 times 4 over 1, 4 once, and then 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And since fractions are division problems, you can just divide 4 by 2, which is 2. Or you can simplify it, the fraction way. So divide by 2, simplify that fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So you get 2 divided by 1, which is 2. Okay? So half of 4 is 2. And then half of a -10r. If you don't know how to do that, you can go over here. 1/2 times 10, make it a fraction. And 1 times 10 is 10. 2 times 1 is 2. You can just go 10 divided by 2 if you want, or you can simplify it like this. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 5 divided by 1 is 5. So half of -10r is -5r. And bring down your 102 and your equal sign. Okay, now go ahead and build it. They started with r, then they multiplied it by -5, and then we added 2. Okay, inverse operation of adding 2 is to subtract 2. So you're going to want to do that to both sides of that equal sign. 2 take away 2 is 0. 102 take away 2 is 100. Bring down your equal sign and bring down your -5r. Okay, now we are going back up. So the inverse operation of times, -5 is to divide by -5. Do that to both sides of that equal sign. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1. 1 times r is r, or 1r, same thing. And then a positive divided by a negative is going to give me a negative answer. So 100 divided by negative 5 is negative 20. Okay, doing that same exact problem, using just going straight into the building equation way. We started with r, and then we multiplied it by negative 10. Then we added 4, and then after that we multiplied by 1/2. Okay? The inverse operation of multiply by 1/2 is to divide by 1/2. Okay? So divide by 1/2, divide by 1/2, and 1/2 divided by 1/2 is 1, because any number divided by itself is 1. And so you'll go right here and go 1 times 4, which is 4, and 1 times a negative 10r is a negative 10r, and that's going to equal 102 divided by 1/2, and that should be 204, but to show you, I'm going to keep it, oh wait, so 104 divided by 1/2, keep it, change it, flip it, okay, and multiply across, so it'd be 204 divided by 1, 204 divided by 1 is 204, so 102 divided by 1/2 is 204, okay, and from there, let's go ahead and go on back up. Inverse operation of plus 4 is to subtract 4, and you can do that to both sides of that equal sign. 4 take away 4 is 0. 204 take away 4 is 200. Bring down your equal sign and that negative 10r. Then go on back up. Inverse operation of times negative 10 is to divide by negative 10. You're going to do that to both sides of that equal sign. Negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1. 1 times r is r. Positive divided by negative is going to be a negative. So 200 divided by negative 10 is going to be negative 20. Okay, number 4. We're going to do, let's see, yep, the building equation way. So let's go ahead and build it. So we started with p. Then they subtracted 60. And then they took that quantity and they multiplied it by 2/3. Okay? So go right into your inverse operations. Inverse operation of times 2/3 is to divide by 2/3. Okay? Do that to both sides of that equation. So 2/3 divided by 2/3 is 1. 1 times p is 1p or p. 1 times a negative 60 is a negative 60. And then 100 divided by 2/3. So you'd keep it, change it to that, and then flip it. So 100 times 3 is 300. 1 times 2 is 2. 300 divided by 2 is 150. So if we divide by 2, divide by 2, 150 over 1, which is 150. Okay? So 100 divided by 2/3 is 150. Okay, now that it's simplified, we go on back up. Inverse operation of subtract 60 is to add 60. Make sure you do that to both sides of that equal sign, please. Negative 60 plus 60 is 0. 150 plus 60 is 210. And you're left with the p equals that. Okay. Now using the distributive property way. So we're going to go 2/3 times p, and that's 2/3 p. 2/3 times a negative 60 is going to be 2/3 times 60. That 2 times 60 is 120. 3 times 1 is 3. So I can just go ahead and go 120 divided by 3, or you could simplify it, that fraction just by going, well, 3 goes into both, so divide by 3, divide by 3. 120 divided by 3 is, hold on a minute, got lost. Oh, sorry, 40. And then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, so 2/3 times negative 60 is going to be negative 40. That equals 100. Okay, and then you build it from there. We started with p. We multiplied it by 2/3. And then after that, they subtracted 40. The inverse operation of subtracting 40 is to add 40, and make sure you do that to both sides of that equal sign. Negative 40 plus 40 is 0. 100 plus 40 is 140. Bring down your 2/3 p, and then go ahead and go back up. Inverse operation of times 2/3 is to divide by 2/3. So we're going to go ahead and go divide by 2/3, divide by 2/3. 2/3 divided by 2/3 is 1. 1 times p is 1p, or p. And then 140 divided by 2/3. Keep change flip. And 140 times 3. It's 420. 1 times 2 is 2. 420 divided by 2 is 210. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 210 divided by 1 is 210. So 140 divided by 2/3 is 210. Okay, so what I've just shown you is I've shown you 2 different ways to solve each one of these problems on there. And what your job to do on this bottom part right here is pick number 1, 2, 3, or 4 and copy it down and solve it again. Okay, so in this space right here, pick any one of these problems, solve it again, and try to do it without peeking, okay? Bye.